I just realized I was muted. Hello, everyone. Ignore what you saw just then, everything you saw. Welcome to my humble little abode, where today we are just getting nice and cozy. We're getting nice and cozy and just having a nice old time. As today, we're just gonna read some nice, short little Christmas stories. It's the season for it. I think a lot of the time when you're older, you tend to focus a lot on the stressful parts of Christmas, like all the food and the money you have to spend, and I get it, I do. I certainly have those stresses myself. But you know what? I thought we might as well try and look at their positive side and look at some short little stories which people have written over the years to, I guess, show the happy points about the time of year. And, if maybe you're the kind of person who does not find joy at this time of year, and, because the winter season in general can be a time of misfortune or at the very least loneliness for some. Perhaps you can find some solace here with just some nice little story readings here. But yeah, I think we might as well just catch up a little bit beforehand. So I did have a cup of Italian-style hot chocolate before coming here, so if my throat seems bad, it's probably because it is. That is chocolate and milk, neither of which are good things for your throat. And I decided to drink a whole cupful of the stuff, so that shows how well I'm prepared I am. I do have some warm water here, which is going lukewarm. As we speak. And, yeah. I mentioned the other stream, that I've been playing more Duel Masters lately on things like Tabletop Sim. I am pleasantly surprised by that game. I forgot how fun that game was and how well it held up. And it seems well balanced as well in the first set. Granted, most stuff in that game is not good in the first set. It seems to have been a thing in card game design that before we kind of started to get a grasp of what makes a good card in a lot of card games, everyone just thought, oh man, we'll just put big numbers on a big guy and people will play it. People will not do that. They're boring cards. People want fun cards to play, which are both strong and in terms of numbers and have cool effects, not vanilla beat sticks. It's why I think Digimon had such a good start. It had a really good balance of both cards, which had high power, but also had good effects along with them. The boss monsters were actually worth using. And I do appreciate that. But, yeah. I hope this gives off some kind of cozy atmosphere for all of you. I don't want anyone coming in being all like, oh, my anxiety. No, this is just a cozy vibe time. I got my blanket on here. Got a nice fire going on in the background. Nice gentle fire. We're all just here to have a nice calming time, listening to some stories. I was meant to have a video out today. I have not finished it yet. It's only a short thing, but I'm just terribly lazy and when it comes to editing. But also the main thing was that I kept retaking it because I couldn't find the perfect take, and I just had to accept that perfect take will not come. It just will not come. It never will. So, yeah. Instead, I've just picked one which I think is pretty decent, and I'm just going to go with that. I'm just going to edit it down. I'll get it up after stream. And, yeah, that'll be my main YouTube channel. I think I'm going to put it as a short as well. Yeah, as a short. And, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But, yeah. So, we do have a few things here today. A large majority of them are available on Project Gutenberg. Now, if you don't know what Project Gutenberg is, it is a online it's a website which acts as like an online library of sorts for a lot of books which have digital versions posted on there. A lot of them are books which are free to the public now. So anything basically from early 1900s, which is now in public domain. A lot of them you will find on Project Gutenberg for free. So a lot of them are from that. And yeah, I found a bunch of really cute ones, a bunch of short ones, and I just wanted to try those out. And we'll give them a read. So, yeah. Without further ado, well, should we start? Why not? Let's start. Let's start. So the first one we have here, it's a classic. It's not really something I would necessarily associate with Christmas, but it is apparently a Christmas story. And yeah, this is from a collection I'm sure many of you have at least heard of if you've not read it. This is from Grimm's Fairy Tales. This probably being one of the least grim ones from amongst them. You know, that if you look at the Grimm's Fairy Tales versions of a lot of stories, a lot of them are far more gruesome than you'd expect. Like, I believe it's in Cinderella, or as it's called in the original story, Aschenputtel. By the way, so actually, I'll get onto that in a second. But yeah, there's a part where the ugly stepsisters get their eyes ripped out by crows. So yeah, pleasant. Yeah, the name comes. Her name was not originally Aschenputtel. So you know, we get Cinderella from that. Cinderella, Aschenputtel. It's actually, the name Aschenputtel is actually a nickname, which comes from the fact that her family was always mocking her for being covered in ash from having to clean the fireplace. So everyone called her Aschenputtel, and I guess that sounded too German, so a lot of things changed it to Cinderella. But yeah, it's the same kind of meaning, one who is covered in ash. Yeah. So, but yeah, we're going to start with this Brothers Grimm story. This is a very short one. Again, a lot of these are all very short, but this is a cute one. This is the Elves and the Shoemaker. Again, not one I normally consider to be Christmassy in per se, but it's a cute one nonetheless. I have very fond memories of watching the Muppets fairy tales, and this was one of the stories, and you had like the weird the three Elvis Muppets being the elves, and it was very funny. Let's have a look here. Oh, where has it gone? Ah, here we go. Oh, ignore that. We're just having nice quiet times here. So yes, the Brothers Grimm. This is the Elves and the Shoemaker. There once was a shoemaker who worked very hard and was very honest, but still he could not earn enough to live upon. And at last all he had in the world was gone, save just leather enough to make one pair of shoes. Then he cut his leather out, all ready to make up the next day, meaning to rise early in the morning to his work. His conscience was clear, and his heart light, amidst all his troubles. So he went peaceably to bed, left all his cares to heaven, and soon fell asleep. In the morning, after he had said his prayers, he sat himself down to his work, when, to his great wonder, there stood the shoes already made upon the table. The good man knew not what to say, or think at such an odd thing happening. He looked at the workmanship. There was not one false stitch in the whole job. All was so neat and true that it was quite a masterpiece. The same day, a customer came in, and the shoes suited him so well that he willingly paid a price higher than usual for them, and the poor shoemaker, with the money, bought leather enough to make two pairs more. In the evening, He cut out the work and went to bed early, that he might get up and begin betimes next day. But he was saved all the trouble, for when he got up in the morning, the work was done ready to his hand. Soon in came buyers, who paid him handsomely for his goods, so that he bought leather enough for 4 pair more. He cut out the work again, and overnight, and found it done in the morning, as before. And so it went on for some time. What was got ready in the evening was always done by daybreak, and the good man soon became thriving and well off again. One evening, about Christmas time, as he and his wife were sitting over the fire chatting together, he said to her, "Well, I should like to sit up and watch tonight, that we may see who it is that comes and does my work for me." The wife liked the thought, so they left the light burning and hid themselves in a corner of the room, behind a curtain that was hung up there, and watched what would happen. As soon as it was midnight, there came in 2 little naked dwarfs, and they sat themselves upon. No, sorry, they sat themselves. I just lost my place. And they, as soon as it was midnight, there came in 2 little naked dwarfs, and they sat themselves upon the shoemaker's bench, took up all the work that was cut out, and began to ply with their little fingers, stitching and rapping and tapping away at such a rate that the shoemaker was all wonder, and could not take his eyes off them. And on they went till the job was done, and the shoes stood ready for use upon the table. This was long before daybreak, and then they bustled away, as quick as lightning. The next day, the wife said to the shoemaker, "Oh, these little wights have made us rich, and we ought to be thankful to them, and do them a good turn if we can. I am quite sorry to see them run about as they do, and indeed, it is not very decent, for they have nothing upon their backs to keep off the cold. I'll tell you what, I will make each of them a shirt, and a coat, and waistcoat, and a pair of pantaloons into the bargain, and do you make each of them a little pair of shoes." The thought pleased the good cobbler very much, and one evening, when all the things were ready, they laid them on the table, instead of with the work that they used to cut out, and then went and hid themselves to watch what little elves would do. About midnight they came, dancing and skipping, hopped round the room, and went to sit down to their work as usual. But when they saw the clothes lying for them, they laughed and chuckled, and seemed mightily delighted. Then they dressed themselves in the twinkling of an eye, and danced and capered and sprang about as merry as could be, till at last they danced out at the door and away over the green. The good couple saw them no more, but everything went well with them from that time forward, as long as they lived. That was a very short story, but I think that's just a wholesome little piece from the Brothers Grimm. There's a lot of stories in here which I don't think are what comes to mind when people think of the Brothers Grimm. And I think this is an odd one where it's kind of very short and one note in terms of what it's about, but I think its popularity has kind of stuck around, as it's just like, I guess it's just meant to be a moral story of do good things for those who, one good turn deserves another and all that. So I imagine that's why that has stuck around so long. There's a bunch of stuff in here. Tom Thumb, Rumpelstiltskin. Maybe we should do a Brothers Grimm reading one day. I don't know if people will be into that. We can talk about it on the Discord maybe, if people will be into it. I know, maybe some people are like, oh yeah, Ashpoodle. Here we go. Yeah. I know, maybe not everyone is into these kind of things, but we can definitely talk about it. But yeah, that's just a cute little story, I find. What else? next? Tell you what. Yeah, here's one. So, this is a story. A lot of these, by the way, are from a website I found called Tea and Ink Society. It's a recommendation of short stories, short Christmas stories. So, this is called this next one here is looks very charming. I've never read it myself. It's called The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. Not sure what the O stands for. Maybe it's Oscar. Maybe it's Oliver. I'm not sure. It says here, probably one of the most famous Christmas short stories. This is the tale of a young married couple who desperately want to buy a beautiful Christmas present for each other, but lack the money to do so. They each make a sacrifice to buy the other present, and the results are humorous and poignant. And I think that's rather charming. Let's give it a read, shall we? Oh, hang on. I would give it a read if it wasn't being so slow. Yeah, great resource, Project Gutenberg, for anyone who's ever interested in reading old text. So yeah, this is the Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. Does it say what the O stands for? Hang on. I want to look at this up now. O. Henry. Oh, let's try that again. What does your full name mean? Oh, O. Henry was just a pen name, it seems. Okay, makes sense. Alright. Apparently his real name was William Sidney Porter. Fair enough. Anyway, yeah. So, yes, this is the Gift of the Magi by O. Porter. $1.87. That was all. And 60 cents of it was in pennies. Pennies saved 1 and 2 at a time by bulldozing the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher until one's cheeks burned with silent imputation of parsimony that such close dealing implied. Even. 3 times Della counted it. $1.87. And the next day would be Christmas. There was clearly nothing to do but flop down on their shabby little couch and howl. So Della did it. Which instigates moral reflection that life is made up of sobs, sniffles, and smiles, with sniffles predominating. While the mistress of the home was gradually subsiding from the first stage to the second, take a look at the home. A furnished flat at $8 per week. It did not exactly beg a description, but it certainly had that word on the lookout for the mendicancy squad. In the vestibule below was a letterbox, into which no letter would go, and an electric button from which no mortal finger could coax a ring. Also, appertaining thereunto was a card bearing the name Mr. James Dillingham Young. The Dillingham had been flung to the breeze during a former period of prosperity, when its possessor was being paid $30 per week. Now, when the income was shrunk to $20, though, they were thinking seriously of contracting to a modest and unassuming D. Whenever Mr. James Dillingham Young came home and reached his flat above, he was called Jim, and greatly hugged by Mrs. James Dillingham Young, already introduced to you as Della, which is all very good. Della finished her cry and attended to her cheeks with the powder rag. She stood by the window and looked out dully at a grey cat walking a grey fence in a grey backyard. Tomorrow will be Christmas Day, and she had only $1.87 with which to buy Jim a present. She had been saving every penny she could for months, with this result. $20 a week doesn't go far. Expenses had been greater than she had calculated. They always are. Only $1.87 to buy a present for Jim. Her Jim. Many a happy hour she had spent planning for something nice for him. Something fine and rare and sterling. Something just a little bit near to being worthy of the honour of being owned by Jim. There was a pier glass between the windows of the room. Perhaps you've seen a pier glass in an $8 flat. A very thin and very agile person may be observing his reflection in a rapid sequence of longitudinal strips, obtain a fairly accurate conception of his looks. Della, being slender, had mastered the art. Suddenly she whirled from the window and stood before the glass. Her eyes were shining brilliantly, but her face had lost its colour within 20 seconds. Rapidly she pulled down her hair and let it fall to its full length. Now, there were two possessions of the James Dillingham Youngs in which they both took mighty pride. One was Jim's gold watch that had been his father's and his grandfather's. The other was Delia's hair. Della's hair, even. I'm ringing it as Delia. Had the Queen of Sheba lived in the flat across the air shaft, Della would have let her hair hang out the window some day to dry, just to appreciate Her Majesty's jewels and gifts. Had King Solomon been the janitor, with all his treasure piled up in the basement, Jim would have pulled out his watch every time he passed, just to see him pluck at his beard from envy. So now, Della's beautiful hair fell about her rippling and shining like a cascade of brown waters. It reached below her knee, and made itself almost a garment for her. And then she did it up again, nervously and quickly. Once she had faltered for a minute, and stood still while a tear or two splashed on the worn, red carpet. On went her old brown jacket, on went her old brown hat, with a whirl of skirts, and with the brilliant sparkle still in her eyes, she fluttered out the door and down the stairs of the street. Where she stopped, the sign read, MME, Sofronie, hair goods of all kinds. One flight up, Della ran, and collected herself, panting. Madame, Madame, large, too white, chilly, hardly looked the Sofronie. Will you buy my hair? Asked Della. I buy hair, said Madame. Take your hat off and let's have a sight at the looks of it. Down rippled the brown cascade. $20, said Madame, lifting the mass with a practiced hand. Give it to me quick, said Della. Oh, and the next 2 hours tripped by on rosy wings. Forget the hashed metaphor. She was ransacking the stores for Jim's present. She found it at last. It surely had been made for Jim and no one else. There was no other like it in any of the stores, and she had turned all of them inside out. It was a platinum fob chain, simple and chaste in design, properly proclaiming its value by substance alone and not by meretricious ornamentation, as all good things should do. It was even worthy of the watch. As soon as she saw it, she knew that it must be Jim's. It was quite like him. Quietness and value, the description applied to both. $21 they took from her for it, and she hurried home with the 87 cents. With that chain on his watch, Jim might be properly anxious about the time in any company. Grand as the watch was, he sometimes looked at it on the sly on account of the old leather strap that he used in place of a chain. When Della reached her home, intoxication gave way a little to prudence and reason. She got out her curling irons and lighted the gas, and went to work repairing the ravages made by generosity added to love. Which is always a tremendous task, dear friends. A mammoth task. Within 40 minutes, her head was covered with tiny, close-lying curls that made her look wonderfully like a truant schoolboy. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, long, carefully, and critically. "If Jim doesn't kill me," she said to herself, "before he takes a second look at me, he'll say that I look like a Coney Island chorus girl. Oh, but what could I do? Oh, what could I do with $1.87? At 7 o'clock, the coffee was made and the frying pan was on the back of the stove, hot and ready to cook the chops. Jim was never late. Della doubled the fob chain in her hand and sat on the corner of the table near the door that he always entered. Then she heard his step on the stairway, down on the first flight, and she turned white for just a moment. She had a habit of saying a little silent prayer about the simplest everyday things, and now she whispered, "Please, God, make him think I'm still pretty." The door opened, and Jim stepped in and closed it. He looked thin and very serious. Poor fellow. He was only 22, and to be burdened with a family. He needed a new overcoat, and he was without gloves. Jim stopped inside the door, as immovable as a setter at the scent of quail. His eyes were fixed upon Della, and there was an expression on them that she could not read. And it terrified her. It was not anger, not surprise, nor disapproval, nor horror, nor any of the sentiments that she'd been prepared for. He simply stared at her fixedly, with that peculiar expression on his face. Della wriggled off the table and went for him. "Jim, darling," she cried, "don't look at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. I'll grow it out again. You won't mind, will you? I just had to do it. My hair grows awfully fast. Say Merry Christmas, Jim, and let's be happy. You don't know what a nice and what a beautiful, nice gift I've got for you." "You've cut off your hair?" asked Jim laboriously, as if he had not arrived at the patent fact yet, even after the hardest mental labor. "Cut it off and sold it," said Della. "Don't you like me just as well, anyhow? I'm me without my hair, ain't I?" Jim looked about the room curiously. "You say your hair is gone," he said with an air almost of idiocy. "You needn't look for it," said Della. "It's sold, I tell you. Sold and gone, too. It's Christmas Eve, boy. Be good to me, for it went for you. Maybe the hairs of my head were numbered," she went on with sudden serious sweetness. "But nobody could ever count my love for you. Shall I put the chops on, Jim?" Out of his trance, Jim seemed quickly to wake. He enfolded his Della for 10 seconds. Let us regard with discreet scrutiny some inconsequential object in the other direction. $8 a week or $1 million a year. What is the difference? A mathematician or a wit would give you the wrong answer. The Magi brought valuable gifts, but that was not among them. This dark assertion will be illuminated later on. Jim drew a package from his overcoat pocket and threw it upon the table. "Don't make any mistake, Dell," he said. "About me. I don't think there's anything in the way of a haircut or a shave or a shampoo that could make me like my girl any less. But if you'll unwrap the package, you may see why you had me going for a while at first." White fingers and nimble tore at the string and paper. And then, an ecstatic scream of joy, and then, alas, a quick feminine change to hysterical tears and wails, necessitating the immediate employment of all the comforting powers of the lord of the flat. For there lay the combs. The set of combs, side and back, that Della had worshipped long in a Broadway window. Beautiful combs, pure tortoise shell, with jeweled rims, just the shade to wear in the beautiful vanished hair. They were expensive combs, she knew, and her heart had simply craved and yearned over them, without the least hope of possession. And now they were hers. But the tresses that should have adorned the coveted ornaments were gone. But she hugged them to her bosom, and at length she was able to look up with dim eyes and smile and say, My hair grows so fast, Jim." And then Della leaped up, like a little singed cat, and cried, "Oh!" Jim had not yet seen his beautiful present. She held it out to him, eagerly, upon her own palm. The dull, precious metal seemed to flash with the reflection of her bright and ardent spirit. "Isn't it dandy, Jim? I hunted all over town to find it. You'll have to look at the time 100 times a day now. Give me your watch. I want to see how it looks on it." Instead of obeying, Jim tumbled down on the couch and put his hands under the back of his head and smiled. "Dell," said he, "let's put our Christmas presents away and keep them a while. They're too nice to use just a present. I sold the watch to get the money to buy your combs. And now suppose you put the chops on." The Magi, as you know, were wise men. Wonderfully wise men who brought gifts to the babe in the manger. They invented the art of giving Christmas presents. Being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in case of duplication. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house. But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all who give gifts, these two were the wisest. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are the wisest. Everywhere, they are the wisest. They are the Magi. Well, that was a very cute story. That was very cute and wholesome. I did enjoy that quite a bit. That's just cute. That's just two people who are very lovey-dovey with each other. You don't see a lot of lovey-dovey nowadays in media. At least not without it being played as a joke. You can't just have people like each other. Or maybe I'm just being biased on that. Maybe I just don't know what I'm looking for. Maybe everything I've seen about it has just been wrong. Maybe it's always there and I just don't see it. It's all just trapped in like terrible American sitcoms. Well, no, that's actually rarely about that. A lot of sitcoms are like, "Oh man, I can't get this girl to go out with me. Ugh." You can never find a couple who just like each other. It's so rare. I know a lot of people like Brooklyn Nine-Nine because it has like an actual functional couple who actually get together and stay together. Because it's very easy to write a couple who... It's very easy to write the build-up to romance, but it's a lot harder to actually write romance when you already got it, you know? It's hard to write a couple who are already together. Or at the very least, it's not as easy. It's not as easy to have drama when you don't need drama in a relationship. You know, sure, people might argue in a relationship, but it doesn't need to have, like, all this drama about it. It's such a rare thing. I think people are too focused on the build-up that no one ever thinks about what happens after. I think a lot of that Cardcaptor Sakura, how that entire show is all about building up to romance. But then when they made Clear Card, it was evident that they didn't know how to write that romance. Oh, they really didn't know what they were doing, actually. But yeah, I quite enjoyed that. That was very cute. Very lovely. Oh, tell you what, this is a fun one. Potentially fun. We'll see how it goes. So, this is actually by the author of Little Women, Louisa May Alcott. I've not personally read Little Women, but I have heard lots of good things about it. I know it's like an American classic for many people, and seen as one of those like great books from the 1800s, like, great novels at least from the 1800s. But yeah, and as a piece where it's predominantly about women as well. Yeah, it's meant to be great. Which one's Sense and Sensibility? That's a great book. I need to finish that. I never read all the book for it, but it's very very funny. Jane Austen, hilarious writer. She's very funny. That was actually very funny written as well. Just then, oh Henry. But yeah, so this is called A Christmas Dream and How It Came to Be True by Louisa May Alcott. So yeah, it's just a little description here according to Tea and Ink Society. It says, Alcott seems to have a genuine love for Christmas. She includes memorable Christmas scenes in her novel Little Women, while she also wrote a number of Christmas short stories and novellas. Alcott was a fan of Charles Dickens' Christmas stories, and A Christmas Dream is a children's version of A Christmas Carol. This would make a great Christmas story to read aloud to your kids. I was thinking of reading Christmas Carol, actually, but it might be a bit too long. It's not a long book itself, but it may be for tonight, so we'll see how it goes. But, yeah, I was actually looking into Little Woman afterwards, after looking into Alcott, when looking up these stories, and I didn't realize Little Woman has a sequel called Good Wives, which was then published in the full version of Little Women as one book. So yeah. But apparently there were several other sequels to it as well. So there's Little Men. I'm not sure what that's about. Maybe it's about like the husbands of them. I'm not sure. But it sounds like New Housewives and New House Husbands of whatever it was called. That was a comedy show, I think. The New Husbands of Hollywood. That guy, that actor. What's his name? Oh well, I can't remember. Anyway, New Husbands of Hollywood's a comedy show. It's like a parody of all those new Housewives shows. Anyway, this is a Christmas Dream and how it came to be true. And how it came true, even.
I'm so tired of Christmas. I wish there would never be another one,
exclaimed a discontent-looking little girl as she sat idly watching her mother arrange a pile of gifts, 2 days before they were to be given.
Why, Effie, what a dreadful thing to say. You're as bad as old Scrooge. I'm afraid something will happen to you, as it did to him, and if you don't care for dear Christmas,
answered Mamma, almost dropping the silver horn she was filling with delicious candies.
Who is Scrooge? What happened to him?
Asked Effie, with a glimmer of interest in her listless face, as she picked out the sourest lemon drop she could find, for nothing sweet suited her just then.
Oh, he was one of Dickens's best people. And you can read the charming story someday. He hated Christmas, until a strange dream showed him how dear and beautiful it was, and made a better man of him. I shall read it, for I like dreams, and have a great many curious ones myself. But they don't keep me from being tired of Christmas," said Effie, poking discontentedly among the sweeties for something worth eating. "Why are you tired of what should be the happiest time of all the year?" asked Mamma anxiously. "Perhaps I shouldn't be if I had something new. But it's always the same, and there isn't any more surprise about it. I always find heaps of goodies in my stocking, don't like some of them, and soon get tired of those I do like. We always have a great dinner, and I eat too much and feel ill next day. Then there's a Christmas tree somewhere with a doll on top, or a stupid old Santa Claus, and the children dancing and screaming over bonbons and toys that break and shiny things. They're of no use. Really, Mama, I've had so many Christmases all alike that I don't think I can bear another one." And Effie laid herself flat on the sofa, as if the mere idea was too much for her. Her mother laughed at her despair, but was sorry to see her little girl so discontented when she had everything to make her happy, and had known but 10 Christmas days. "Suppose we don't give you any presents at all? How would that suit you?" asked Mamma, anxious to please their spoiled child. "I should like one large and splendid one, and one dear little one, to remember some very nice person by," said Effie, who was a fanciful little body, full of odd whims and notions, which her friends loved to gratify, regardless of time, trouble, or money. She was the last of 3 little girls, and very dear to all the family. "Well, my darling, I will see what I can do to please you, and say not a word until all is ready. If I could only get a new idea to start with," and Mamma went on, tying up her pretty bundles with a thoughtful face, while Effie strolled to the window to watch the rain that kept her indoors and made her dismal. "Seems to me poor children have better times than rich ones. I can't go out, and there's a girl about my age splashing along. Let any maid to fuss about rubbers and cloaks and umbrellas and colds. Oh, I wish I was a beggar girl. Would you like to be hungry, cold, and ragged? To beg all day? And sleep on an ash heap at night?" asked Mamma, wondering what would come next. "Cinderella did. I had a nice time in the end. This girl out here has a basket of scraps on her arm, and a big old shawl around her, and doesn't seem to care a bit. The water runs out of the toes of her boots. She goes paddling along, laughing at the rain, eating a cold potato, as if it tasted nicer than the chicken and ice cream I had for dinner. Holy shit, chicken and ice cream, what? Yes, I do think poor children are happier than rich ones." So do I sometimes. At the orphan asylum today, I saw 24 merry little souls who have no parents, no home, and no hope of Christmas beyond a stick of candy or a cake. I wish she had been there to see how happy they were, playing with the old toys some richer children had sent them. "You may give them all mine. I'm so tired of them, I never want to see them again," said Effie, turning from the window to the pretty baby house full of everything a child's heart could desire. "Oh, I will, and I'd let you begin again with something you will not tire of. If only I can find it." And Mamma knit her brows, trying to discover some grand surprise for this child who didn't care for Christmas. Nothing more was said then, and wandering off to the library, Effie found A Christmas Carol, and curling herself up on the sofa, read it all before tea. I think there's a spelling error there. Some of it she did not understand, but she laughed and cried over many parts of the charming story, and felt better without knowing why. All the evening she thought of poor Tiny Tim, Mrs. Cratchit with the pudding, and the stout old gentleman who danced so gaily that his legs twinkled in the air. Presently, bedtime arrived. Come now, and toast your feet, said Effie's nurse, while I do your pretty hair and tell stories. I'll have a fairy tale tonight, a very interesting one, commanded Effie, as she put on her blue silk wrapper and little fur-lined slippers to sit before the fire and have her long curls brushed. So Nursey told her best tales, and when at last the child lay down under her lace curtains, her head was full of a curious jumble of Christmas elves, poor children, snowstorms, sugar plums, and surprises. So it is no wonder that she dreamed all night, and this was the dream which she had never quite forgot. She found herself sitting on a stone in the middle of a great field, all alone. The snow was falling fast. A bitter wind whistled by, and night was coming on. She felt hungry, cold and tired, and did not know where to go, nor what to do. Oh, I wanted to be a beggar girl. Now I am one. Oh, but I don't like it. Wish somebody would come and take care of me. I don't know who I am, and I think I must be lost, thought Effie, with the curious interest one takes in one's self in dreams. But the more she thought about it, the more bewildered she felt. Faster fell the snow, colder blew the wind, darker grew the night. And poor Effie made up her mind that she was quite forgotten and left to freeze alone. The tears were chilled on her cheeks, her feet like icicles, and her heart died within her. So hungry, frightened, and forlorn was she. Laying her head on her knees, she gave herself up for lost, and sat there with the great flakes fast turning her to a little white mound, when suddenly the sound of music reached her, and starting up, she looked and listened with all her eyes and ears. Far away a dim light shone, and a voice was heard singing. She tried to run toward the welcome glimmer, but could not stare, and stood like a small statue of expectation, while the light drew nearer, and the sweet words of the song grew clearer. From our happy home, through the world we roam, 1 week in all the year, making winter spring with the joy we bring, for Christmas tide is here. Now the eastern star shines from afar to light the poorest home. Hearts warmer grow, gifts freely flow, for Christmas tide has come. Now gay trees rise before young eyes, abloom with tempting cheer. Blithe voices sing, and blithe bells ring, for Christmas tide is here. Oh, happy chime, oh, blessed time, that draws us all so near. Welcome, dear day, all creatures say, for Christmas tide is here. A child's voice sang. A child's hand carried the little candle, and in the circle of soft light it shed, Effie saw a pretty child coming to her through the night and snow. A rosy, smiling creature, wrapped in white fur, with a wreath of green and scarlet holly on its shining hair, the magic candle in one hand, and the other outstretched as if to shower gifts and warmly press all her other hands. Effie forgot to speak as this bright vision came nearer, leaving no trace of footsteps in the snow, only lighting the way with its little candle, and filling the air with the music of its song. "Dear child, are you lost? Dear child, you are lost. I can't find you," said the stranger, taking Effie's cold hands in his, with a smile like sunshine, while every hollyberry glowed like a little fire. "Do you know me?" asked Effie, feeling no fear, but a great gladness at his coming. Oh, I know all children.
One moment, please. I am... I am sorry for the interruption there. I had thought my phone was off. I do apologize, it was a family member calling. Where were we?
Do you know me?
Asked Effie, feeling no fear, but a great gladness at his coming.
Oh, I know all children, and go to find them, for this is my holiday, and I gather them from all parts of the world to be merry with once a year. Are you an angel?
Asked Effie, looking for the wings.
No, I am a Christmas spirit, and live with my mates in a pleasant place, getting ready for the holiday, when we are let out to roam about the world, helping make this a happy time for all who will let us in. Will you come and see how we work? I'll go anywhere with you. Don't leave me again, cried Effie gladly. First, I'll make you comfortable. This is what we love to do. You're cold, and you shall be warm. Hungry, I'll feed you. Sorrowful, and I'll make you gay.
With a wave of his candle, all three miracles were wrought, for the snowflakes turned to white fur cloak and hood on Effie's head and shoulders. A bowl of hot soup came sailing to her lips, and vanished when she had eagerly drunk the last drop, and suddenly the dismal field changed to a new world, so full of wonders that all her troubles were forgotten in a minute. Bells were ringing so merrily that it was hard to keep from dancing. Green garlands hung on the walls, and every tree was a Christmas tree full of toys and blazing with candles that never went out. In one place, with many little spirits sewed like mad on warm clothes, turning off work faster than any sewing machine ever invented, and great piles were made ready to be sent to poor people. Other busy creatures packed money into purses and wrote checks which they sent flying away on the wind. A lovely kind of snowstorm to fall into a world below full of poverty. Older and graver spirits were looking over piles of little books in which the records of the past year were kept, telling how different people had spent it and what sort of gifts they deserved. Some got peace, some got disappointment, some remorse and sorrow, some great joy and hope. The rich had generous thoughts sent to them, the poor gratitude and contentment. Children had more love and duty to parents, and parents renewed patience, wisdom, and satisfaction for and in their children. No one was forgotten. Please tell me what splendid place this is, asked Effie, as soon as she could collect her wits after the first look at all these astonishing things. This is the Christmas world, and here we work all the year round, never tired of getting ready for this happy day. See, these are the saints just setting off, for some have far to go, and the children must not be disappointed. As he spoke, the spirit pointed to 4 gates, out of which 4 great sleighs were just driving, laden with toys, while a jolly old Santa Claus sat in the middle of each, drawing on his mittens and tucking up his wraps for a long, cold drive. Why, I thought there was only one Santa Claus, and even he was a humbug, cried Effie, astonished at the sight.
Never give up your faith in sweet old stories, even after you come to see that they are only the pleasant shadow of a lovely truth. Just then, the sleighs went off with a great jingling of bells and pattering of reindeer hoofs, while all the spirits gave a cheer that was heard in the lower world, where people sang, "Hear the stars sing." I will never say there isn't any Santa Claus again. Now, show me more. You will like to see this place, I think, and may learn something here, perhaps. The spirit smiled as he led the way to a little door, through which Effie peeped into a world of dolls. Baby houses were in full blast, with dolls of all sorts going on, like live people. Waxen ladies sat in their parlours, elegantly dressed. Black dolls cooked in the kitchens. Whoa. Nurses walked with the bits of dollies, and the streets were full of tin soldiers, marching, wooden horses prancing, express wagons rumbling, and little men hurrying to and fro. Shops were there, and tiny people buying legs of mutton, pounds of tea, mites of clothes, and everything dolls use or wear or want. But presently she saw that in some ways the dolls improved upon the manners and customs of human beings, and she watched eagerly to learn why they did these things. A fine Paris doll driving in her carriage took up a black worsted Dinah who was hobbling along with a basket of clean clothes, and carried her to her journey's end, as if it were the proper thing to do. Another interesting China lady took off her comfortable red cloak and put it round a poor wooden creature, done up in a paper shift, and so badly painted that its face would have sent some babies into fits. Seems to me I once knew a rich girl who didn't give her things to the poor girls. I wish I could remember who she was and tell her to be as kind as that china doll, said Effie, much touched by the sweet way the pretty creature wrapped up the poor fright, and then ran off in her little grey gown to buy a shiny fowl stuck on a wooden platter for her invalid mother's dinner. We recall things to people's minds by dream. I think the girl you speak of won't forget this one. And the spirit smiled, as if he enjoyed some joke which she did not see. A little bell rang as she looked, and away scampered the children into the red and green schoolhouse, with the roof that lifted up, so one could see how nicely they sat at their desks with the mites of books, or drew on the square-inch blackboards with crumbs of chalk. Oh, they know their lessons very well, and they're still as mice. We make a great record at our school, and get bad marks every day. I shall tell all the girls they had better mind what they do, or their dolls will be better scholars than they are, said Effie, much impressed as she peeped in and saw no rod in the hand of the little mistress, who looked up and shook her head at the intruder, as if begging her to go away before the order of the school was disturbed. Effie retired at once, but could not resist one look in at the window of a fine mansion, where the family were at dinner. The children behaved so well at table, and never grumbled a bit when their mamma said they could not have any more fruit. Now, show me something else, she said as they came up on the low door that led out the doll land. You have seen how we prepare for Christmas. Let me show you where we love best to send our good and happy gifts, answered the spirit, giving her his hand again. I know, I've seen ever so many, began Effie, thinking of her own Christmases. No, you have never seen what I will show you. Come away and remember what you see tonight. Like a flash, that bright world vanished. Effie found herself in a part of the city she had never seen before. It was far away from the gayer places, where every store was brilliant with lights and full of pretty things, and every house wore a festival air, while people hurried to and fro with merry greetings. It was down among the dingy streets, where the poor people lived, and where there was no making ready for Christmas.
Hungry women looked in at the shabby shops, longing to buy meat and bread, but empty pockets forbade. Tipsy men drank up their wages in the bar rooms, and in many cold, dark chambers, little children huddled under the thin blankets, trying to forget their misery in sleep. No nice dinners filled the air with savory smells. No gay trees dropped toys and bonbons into your hands. No little stockings hung in rows beside the chimney piece, ready to be filled. No happy sounds of music, gay voices and dancing feet were heard. And there were no signs of Christmas anywhere.
Don't they have any place in? Don't they have any in this place?
Asked Effie, shivering as she held fast the spirit's hand, following where he had led her.
We come to bring it. Let me show you our best workers.
And the spirit pointed to some sweet-faced men and women who came stealing into the poorhouses, working such beautiful miracles that Effie could only stand and watch. Oh. Some slipped money into the empty pockets and sent the happy mothers to buy all the comforts they needed. Hang on. Oh, where am I? Oh. Let me just double check. Okay. Some slipped into the empty pockets and sent the happy mothers to buy all the comforts they needed. The others led drunken men out of temptation and took them home to find safer pleasures there. Fires were kindled on cold hearths, tables spread as if by magic, and warm clothes wrapped around shivering limbs. Flowers suddenly bloomed in the chambers of the sick. Old people found themselves remembered. Sad hearts were consoled by tender word, and wicked ones softened by the story of him who forgave all sin. I think they're talking about Jesus. But the sweetest work was for the children, and Effie held her breath to watch these human fairies hang up and fill the little stockings, without which a child's Christmas is not perfect, putting in things that once she would have thought very humble presents, but which she now seemed beautiful and precious, because these poor babies had nothing.
This is so beautiful! Oh, I wish I could make Merry Christmases as these good people do, and be loved and thanked as they are,
said Effie, softly, as she watched the busy men and women do their work and steal away without thinking of any reward but their own satisfaction.
You can, if you will. I have shown you the way. Try it and see how happy your own holiday will be hereafter.
As he spoke, the spirit seemed to put his arms around her and vanished with a kiss.
Oh, stay and show me more,
cried Effie, trying to hold him fast.
Darling, wake up and tell me why you are smiling in your sleep, said a voice in her ear,
and opening her eyes, there was Mama, bending over her, and morning sunshine streaming into the room.
Are they all gone? Did you hear the bells? Oh, wasn't it splendid? She asked,
rubbing her eyes and looking about her for the pretty child who was so real and sweet.
Oh, you've been dreaming at a great rate, talking in your sleeps, laughing, and clapping your hands as if you were cheering someone. Tell me what was so splendid, said Mama,
smoothing the tumbled hair and lifting up the sleepy head. Then, while she was being dressed, Effie told her dream, and her nursie thought it very wonderful. But Mama smiled to see how curiously things the child had thought. Read, heard, and seen through the day were mixed up in her sleep.
The spirit said I could work lovely miracles if I tried. I don't know how to begin. I have no magic candle to make feasts appear and light up groves of Christmas trees as he did, said Effie sorrowfully.
Oh, yes, you have. We will do it! We will do it! And clapping her hands, Mama suddenly began to dance all over the room as if she had lost her wits. How? Oh, you must tell me, Mama, cried Effie, dancing after her and ready to believe anything possible when she remembered the adventures of the past night. I've got it, the new idea, a splendid one. Oh, if only I can carry it out. And Mama waltzed the little girl round till her curls flew wildly in the air, while Nursey laughed as if she would die. Oh, tell me, shrieked Effie. No, it is a surprise. Oh, a grand surprise for Christmas Day, sung Mamma, evidently charmed with her happy thought. Now, come to breakfast. We must work like bees if you want to play spirits tomorrow. You and Nursey will go out shopping and get heaps of things, while I arrange matters behind the scenes. They were running downstairs as Mamma spoke, and Effie called out breathlessly, Oh, it won't be a surprise, for I know you're going to ask some poor children here and have a tree or something. It won't be like my dream, for they have had ever so many trees, and more children than we can find anywhere. There will be no tree, no party, no dinner in this house at all, and no presents for you. Won't that be a surprise? And Mamma laughed at Effie's bewildered face. Do it. I shall like it, I think, and I won't ask any questions, so it will all burst upon me when the time comes, she said. And she ate her breakfast thoughtfully, for this really would be a new sort of Christmas. All that morning Effie trotted after Nursey, in and out of shops buying dozens of barking dogs, woolly lambs, and squeaking birds, and tiny tea sets, gay picture books, mittens and hoods, dolls and candy. Parcel after parcel was sent home, but when Effie returned, she saw no trace of them, though she peeped everywhere. Nursey chuckled, but wouldn't give a hint, and went out again in the afternoon with a long list more of things to buy, while Effie wandered forlornly about the house, missing the usual merry stir that went before the Christmas dinner and the evening fun. As for Mamma, she was quite invisible all day, and came in at night so tired that she could only lie on the sofa to rest, smiling as if some very pleasant thought made her happy in spite of weariness. Is the surprise going on all right? Asked Effie anxiously, for it seemed an immense time to wait until another evening came. Beautifully. Better than I expected, for several of my good friends are helping, or they couldn't have done it as I wish. I know you will like it, dear, and long remember this new way of making Christmas merry. Mamma gave her a very tender kiss, and Effie went to bed. One moment. I lost my place there. The next day was a very strange one, for when she woke, there was no stocking to examine, no pile of gifts under her napkin. No one said Merry Christmas to her, and the dinner was just as usual to her. Mamma vanished again, and Nursey kept wiping her eyes and saying, The dear things, it's the prettiest idea I've ever heard. No one but your blessed ma could have done it. Oh, do stop, Nursey, I shall go crazy because I don't know the secret, cried Effie more than once. And she kept her eye on the clock, for at 7 in the evening, the surprise was to come. The longed-for hour arrived at last, and the child was too excited to ask questions, while Nurse put on her cloak and hood. Oh, dear me, and led her to the carriage, and they drove away, leaving their house, the one dark and silent one in the row. Oh, I feel like the girls in the fairy tales who are led out to strange places and see fine things, said Effie in a whisper, as they jingled through the gay streets. My dearie, it is like a fairy tale, I do assure you. And you will see finer things than most children will tonight. Steady now, do just as I tell you. You don't say one word, whatever you see, answered Nursey, quite quivering with excitement, as she patted a large box on her lap, and nodded and laughed with the twinkling eyes. No, with twinkling eyes, even. They drove into a dark yard, and Effie was led through a back door to a little room, where Nurse coolly proceeded to take off not only her cloak and hood, but her dress and shoes also. Effie stared and bit her lips, but it kept still until out of the box came a little white fur coat and boots, a wreath of holly leaves and berries, and a candle with a frill of gold paper round it. A long "Oh!" escaped her then, and when she was dressed and saw herself in the glass, she started back, exclaiming, "Why, Nursey, I look like the spirit in my dream!" "So you do. And that's the part you are to play in, my pretty. Now, whist, while I blind your eyes and put you in your place." "Shall I be afraid?" whispered Effie, full of wonder, for as they went on she heard the sound of many voices. The tramp of many feet, in spite of the bandage, was sure a light great. Let me read that again. The tramp of many feet, and, in spite of the bandage, was sure a great light shone upon her when she stood. "You needn't be. I shall stand close by while your ma will be there." After the handkerchief was tied about her eyes, Nurse led Effie up some steps and placed her on a high platform, where something like leaves touched her head, and the soft snap of lamps seemed to fill the air. Music began as the nurse clapped her hands, and the voices outside sounded nearer, and the tramp was evidently coming to the stairs. "Now, my precious, look and see how you and your dear ma have made a Merry Christmas for them that needed it." Off went the bandage, and for a minute, Effie really did think she was asleep again. For she actually stood in a grove of Christmas trees, all gay and shining, as in her vision. 12 on a side, and in 2 rows down the room stood the little pines, each on its low table, and behind Effie a taller one rose to the roof, hung with wreaths of popcorn, apples, oranges, horns of candy, and cakes of all sorts, from sugary hearts to gingerbread jumbos. On the smaller tree she saw many of her own discarded toys, and those Nursey bought, as well as heaps that seemed to have rained down straight from that delightful Christmas country, where she felt as if she was again. "Oh, how splendid!" "Who is it for? Who is it for? What is that noise? Where is Mamma?" cried Effie, pale with pleasure and surprise, as if she stood looking down the brilliant little street from her high place. Before Nurse could answer, the doors at the lower end flew open, and in marched 24 little blue-gowned orphan girls, singing sweetly until amazement changed their song to cries of joy and wonder as the shining spectacle appeared. While they stood starting with round eyes at the wilderness of the pretty things about them, Mamma stepped up beside Effie, holding her hand fast to give her courage, told the story of the dream in a few simple words, ending in this way. "So my little girl wanted to be a Christmas spirit too, and make this a happy day for those who had not had as many pleasures and comforts as she has. She likes surprises, and we planned this all for you. She shall play the good fairy and give each of you something from this tree, after which everyone will find her own name on a small tree and can go enjoy it in her own way. March by, my dears, and let us fill your hands." Nobody told them to do it, but all the hands clapped heartily before a single child stirred. Then one by one they came to look up wonderingly at the pretty giver of the feast, as she leaned down to offer them great yellow oranges, red apples, bunches of grapes, bonbons, and cakes, till all were gone, and a double row of smiling faces turned toward her as the children filed back to their places in the orderly way. Oh, dear me, in the orderly way they had been taught. Then each was led to her own tree by the good ladies who had helped Mamma with all their hearts, and the happy hubbub that arose would have satisfied even Santa Claus himself. Shrieks of joy, dances of delight, laughter and tears, for some tender little things could not bear so much pleasure at once, and sobbed with mouths full of candy and hands full of toys. Oh, how they ran to show one another their new treasures, how they peeped and tasted, pulled and pinched until the air was full of queer noises, the floor covered with papers, and the little trees left bare of all but candles. I don't think heaven can be any gooder than this, sighed one small girl. Oh, no, let's give her a different voice. I don't think heaven can be any gooder than this, sighed one small girl, as she looked about her in blissful amaze, holding her full apron with one hand, while she luxuriously carried sugar plums in her mouth with the other. Well, is that a truly angel up there? Is that a truly angel up there? Asked another, fascinated by the little white figure with the wreath on its shining hair, who in some mysterious way had been the cause of all this merrymaking. I wish I dared to go and kiss her for this splendid party, said a lame child, leaning on her crutch as she stood near the steps, wondering how it seemed to sit in a mother's lap as Effie was doing while she watched the happy scene before her. Oh, dear me, I do apologise for yawning. Effie heard her, and remembering Tiny Tim, ran down and put her arms about the pale child, kissing the wistful face as she said sweetly, "You may, but Mama deserves the thanks. She did it all. I only dreamed about it." Lame Katy felt as if a truly angel was embracing her, and could only stammer out her thanks, while the other children ran to see the pretty spirit and touch her soft dress until she stood in a crowd of blue gowns laughing as they held up their gifts for her to see and admire. Mama leaned down and whispered one word to the older girls, and suddenly they all took hands to dance around Effie, singing as they skipped. It was a pretty sight, and the ladies found it hard to break up the happy revel. But it was late for small people, and too much fun is a mistake. So the girls fell into line and marched before Effie and Mama again to say good night with such grateful little faces that the eyes of those who looked grew dim with tears. Mama kissed everyone, and many a hungry childish heart felt as if the touch of those tender lips was their best gift. Effie shook so many small hands that her own tingled, and when Katy came, she pressed the small doll into Effie's hand, whispering, "Oh, you didn't have a single present. We had lots. Do keep that. It's the prettiest thing I got." "I will," answered Effie, and held it fast until the last smiling face was gone. The surprise all over, and she safe in her own bed, too tired and happy for anything but sleep. "Mama, it was a beautiful surprise, and thank you so much. I don't see how you did it, but I like it best of all the Christmases I ever had, and mean to make one every year. I had my splendid big present, and here's the other little one to keep for love of poor Katy. So even that part of my wish came true." And Effie fell asleep with a happy little smile on her lips, her one humble gift still in her hand, and a new love for Christmas in her heart that never changed through a long life spent in doing good. Oh, that was fairly long. Oh, hang on, I think I dropped something before. Oh dear. It appears I've lost the thing I dropped. I shall have to find it later on. But, yeah. Righto, oh my goodness, I am yawning. I think I'm quite tired. How long have I been going for? About an hour and a half now. Maybe we should just call it there for today. We got these 3 little short stories. Let's have a look here. What other ones are that we could try? Maybe rich quick ones. Something silly. No. Maybe we should just leave it. Tell you what, yeah, I'm pretty tired. Due to some other things. And, yeah, I think rather than tiring you all with my own yawning throughout the story, we should leave it there. But I had fun doing this. It's been a while since I've done a reading stream. And I know they're not for everyone at all, and a lot of people aren't interested in them, but I like doing them. I thought it might be fun to try it out again after a while. And yeah, I do hope you found some joy or some relaxation in these short little things. And yeah. Yeah, I had quite a fun time reading these. Um, what are we doing this week? I think on Friday we are. I think we're going to be streaming Grand Blue or Guilty Gear if I can't get Grand Blue. Yeah, some kind of fighting game. And we're also going to be playing. Oh no, not playing. We're going to be doing a karaoke stream on the 16th because that's my birthday. So yeah, I do hope that for those who've been listening, you have enjoyed it. You've been able to have a relaxing time, and yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Keep well, stay safe, and eat lots of good food. Alright, have a good one, everyone. Thank you very much. Keep well. Bye. Bye.